The grand courtroom of the Interstellar Council was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Its walls shimmered with a pale, translucent metal that seemed to shift color depending on the angle of light. Hundreds of delegates from dozens of species filled the high arches, their voices a low hum of tension. This session was crucial. The dispute over the energy-rich planet Kalian 9 had reached a tipping point, and the verdict would shape the galaxy's future. Among the delegates, Lady Marin, the human diplomat, stood tall, her uniform crisp and her demeanor calm but commanding. She had worked tirelessly for months to prepare her arguments. Humans were still new to the interstellar political scene, and every word she spoke carried not just the weight of her intelligence, but also the burden of representing her species. Captain Rylan, her personal guard, stood at the back of the room, alert and watchful. Humans were fewer in number, but Rylan's instincts were honed from years of protecting diplomats in dangerous environments. His eyes scanned the room constantly, noting the subtle gestures and quiet murmurs of delegates who did not speak aloud, but clearly communicated through small telepathic pulses or body movements. The session began with the alien prosecutor, a tall insect-like being with translucent wings, addressing the court. Its voice buzzed low and resonant, demanding strict control over Kalian 9. Lady Marin listened carefully, nodding occasionally, formulating her counter-argument silently. She was not just defending a human claim, she was advocating for fairness, for reason, for diplomacy. Then it was her turn. She stepped forward gracefully, her boots clicking on the smooth floor. "Honorable delegates," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Humans seek only the right to study Kalian 9's energy reserves responsibly. We understand the risks and wish to cooperate for the benefit of all species." Her words drew polite applause from a few delegates, but some eyes narrowed suspiciously. Humans were still relatively unknown in interstellar politics. Many delegates doubted their capability, underestimating their ingenuity. Rylan knew this, and he noticed the slight tension building in the room. Suddenly, in the middle of her speech, Lady Marin faltered. Her hand trembled slightly and her knees bent as if the floor were moving beneath her. Gasps erupted across the room. Some alien delegates leaned back in shock, while others whispered rapidly to one another. Rylan's instincts kicked in immediately. He pushed through the crowd, reaching her side in seconds. Lady Marin's eyes were wide with confusion, her breath uneven. "Stay with me, Lady Marin," Rylan said, his voice calm but firm. "You're safe." Medical drones hovered around, scanning her vitals. The alien medic, a gelatinous figure with multiple appendages, examined her, but its tools were designed for species with entirely different physiologies. Her collapse. "Unusual," it said, the translation module stuttering. "No signs of typical illness detected." Rylan's mind raced. He had seen humans faint from heat or exhaustion before, but Lady Marin had been in perfect condition, fully hydrated, fully alert until this moment. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He scanned the surrounding area, his gaze sharp. Nothing should have caused this, and yet he noticed a faint, irregular pulse from under the podium. No one else seemed to notice. The alien delegates were distracted by the drama, some whispering accusations, others speculating about human fragility. But Rylan had learned that in such moments, subtle details mattered most. Lady Marin's eyes fluttered as she regained consciousness slowly. Her voice was weak but clear. "Rylan?" she asked. "I've got you," he said firmly. "You're safe now. But we need to figure out what happened. This wasn't an accident." The courtroom was thrown into chaos. Some delegates called for the session to be postponed. Others suspected foul play. But the council's elder, a massive creature with crystalline limbs, raised its voice to silence the uproar. "Order!" it commanded. "The session continues, but we must ensure the safety of all delegates." Rylan helped Lady Marin to a nearby seat, keeping a watchful eye on the crowd. His mind was already piecing together the puzzle. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest species here, but their adaptability and sharp perception often gave them an edge. He had learned to trust these instincts in life-or-death situations. And now those instincts screamed that something in this courtroom had been deliberately set against Lady Marin. He crouched near the floor, examining the podium carefully. His eyes caught a slight glimmer, a tiny device almost invisible against the polished metal. He touched it lightly, and the faint pulse he had noticed earlier disappeared. Someone had intended to make Lady Marin collapse at a critical moment, to disrupt the session and manipulate the council's decision. Ryland's jaw tightened. Whoever had done this underestimated humans. Underestimated him? He vowed silently that he would uncover the truth, no matter how complex or dangerous it became. Meanwhile, Lady Marin composed herself, hiding the lingering weakness in her hands and knees. She looked at Ryland with gratitude but also determination. Humans were new, yes, but they were resilient, and she would not let this incident diminish her purpose. She straightened her uniform and cleared her throat. "I will continue," she said, her voice gaining strength as the medical drones verified her condition. The insect-like prosecutor raised an eyebrow, suspicious but curious. "Are you certain, human?" it asked. "Your species seems fragile." Ryland's eyes narrowed. Humans might not have the obvious power of other species, but they had intelligence, strategy, and intuition. He could feel it coursing through him now, an almost tangible force that had allowed humans to survive against countless odds in history. Lady Marin had it too, in her sharp mind and steady resolve. The courtroom quieted. Lady Marin took a deep breath and resumed her argument, carefully structured and persuasive. She referenced interstellar laws, past cooperative agreements, and the scientific potential of Kalian 9. Her voice, though still faint, carried authority. Slowly, the delegates began listening, some nodding, some hesitant, but all paying attention. Ryland remained alert, scanning every corner, noting the subtle reactions of the delegates. Some tried to hide their concern. Some pretended to be distracted, but he could feel the underlying tension, the subtle signals that something more than legal debate was at play. Someone had tried to manipulate this session, and he would find out who. Hours passed. Lady Marin continued presenting evidence, responding to objections with precision and calm. Ryland's focus never wavered. He moved silently, observing, listening, analyzing. He collected fragments of conversation, strange gestures, and overlooked anomalies. Each detail was a thread, and he was beginning to weave them into a pattern. Finally, as the first part of the session ended, Lady Marin was escorted to a private chamber to rest. Ryland lingered near the courtroom, noting the positions of delegates, the shifts in energy readings, and the subtle traces left by the mysterious device. He understood one thing clearly. The collapse had been no accident. Someone wanted to sabotage the humans, perhaps even claim Kalian 9's resources by manipulating their presence in the council. That night, Ryland stayed awake, reviewing every detail. He mapped the layout of the courtroom, the positions of every delegate, and the energy signatures recorded by his sensors. Humans were not naturally the most powerful in the galaxy, but they had something no alien species had mastered fully: curiosity, intuition, and determination. As he leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving the holographic map of the courtroom, he made a promise. Whoever had tried to harm Lady Marin would be found, and when they were, they would face not just the Council's judgment, but the ingenuity and persistence of a human mind. The first part of the story closed with a quiet tension, a sense of anticipation. The stage was set. The mystery had begun, and one human guard, underestimated by nearly everyone in the galaxy, had already begun unraveling a plot that could change the fate of the Council and humanity itself. The morning after the courtroom incident, the great halls of the Interstellar Council felt different. The usual hum of delegates chatting before the session was quieter. Whispers replaced laughter, and side glances replaced friendly greetings. Everyone had heard about the human diplomat's sudden collapse. Some called it a medical accident. Others whispered it was a sign of weakness. But Captain Ryland knew better. He stood near the chamber window of the human quarters, looking out at the endless glow of the city below. The interstellar capital floated in orbit around a gas giant, its skyline filled with shimmering towers and drifting ships. From this distance it looked peaceful. But Ryland knew that in politics, peace was only the calm before the storm. Lady Marin sat behind him, still pale but recovering. She had refused to rest for long. Her eyes, though tired, were sharp with purpose. "Ryland," she said softly, "I know what you're thinking. But we can't accuse anyone without proof. If we make the wrong move, it will destroy our reputation." Ryland turned, his face calm but determined. "I understand, ma'am. But whoever placed that device beneath your podium wasn't trying to scare you. They wanted to discredit you, or worse." She nodded slowly. "Then find the truth, Captain. Quietly. If the Council believes humans are blaming others too easily, it will weaken us even more." Rylan nodded and left the room, already forming a plan. He wasn't a detective by training, but humans had always been good at figuring things out, using instincts, logic, and a touch of creativity that most alien species didn't understand. The council's main hall was empty now, its towering ceiling filled with dim lights. Rylan moved silently across the floor, scanning the area where Lady Marin had collapsed. He crouched down beside the podium again. The device he had found earlier was gone. Someone had cleaned the area too quickly. Too carefully, he frowned. Only authorized technicians could access this room after the session. That meant whoever had planted the device either had permission or powerful friends. He activated the small wrist scanner on his arm. It hummed softly, releasing a wave of light across the floor. The scanner displayed faint traces of energy, residual particles from the hidden device. The readings were weak, but he recognized the pattern. It wasn't human technology. The signal had a crystalline frequency, something used only by a few advanced species, including the Varans, a tall, silver-skinned race known for their precision and secrecy. Rylan saved the readings to his datapad and stood up. The Varans were one of the main factions competing for Kalian 9. If they could make Lady Marin collapse in front of the council, they could claim humans were too unstable to manage the resource. Clever, ruthless. As he exited the hall, he noticed someone watching him. A short alien with green scales and large eyes stood in the corner, pretending to clean a control panel. Rylan didn't react. Instead, he walked casually toward the exit, but his eyes caught the alien's reflection in the polished wall. The creature followed him for a few seconds, then turned away. Rylan's suspicion grew stronger. He went to the council's data archives, a secure place filled with endless holographic shelves. The caretaker, an artificial being made of pure light, greeted him politely. "Captain Rylan, you seek information?" the being asked in a soft, echoing voice. "Yes," Rylan said. "I need access to the attendance logs and maintenance records for yesterday's session." The light being pulsed briefly. Access granted for Level 3 clearance. Be advised, several entries were updated recently. Rylan frowned. Updated by whom? By Varan technical staff, the voice answered calmly. There it was again. The same name. The Varans were too perfect, too careful. If someone had altered the records, it meant they had something to hide. He scrolled through the logs. The entry for Lady Marin's podium maintenance had been marked as routine adjustment, but the timestamp didn't match the normal schedule. Someone had tampered with it only hours before the session began. Rylan downloaded the file, encrypting it instantly. As he turned to leave, he caught a reflection of movement again. Someone else was in the archive. A faint shadow slipped behind the far shelves. "Who's there?" Rylan called out. His hand instinctively went to his sidearm, though he hoped not to use it. The silence stretched for a few seconds before a small figure stepped out. It was the same green-scaled alien he had seen earlier. The creature raised both hands nervously. "Please, don't harm me." "I mean no trouble," it said in broken galactic common. Rylan's eyes narrowed. "Then why are you following me?" The alien hesitated. "Because I saw—" "What happened yesterday? I cleaned the courtroom. I know something." Rylan lowered his weapon slightly but didn't relax. "Talk." The alien swallowed hard. "A Varan guard came before the session. He told me to leave early. He said there was a system test under the podium. I didn't think it strange at the time, but later, when the diplomat fell, you realized the truth," Rylan finished for him. The alien nodded quickly. "Yes, I tried to speak to the council security, but they told me to stay silent. Said it was not my concern." Rylan stared at him for a long moment. The cleaner was nervous but sincere. His hands trembled, but his eyes were honest. "What's your name?" Rylan asked. "Thurn," the alien replied. "I only clean. I don't want trouble." "You already helped more than you know, Thurn," Rylan said calmly. "But this information could be dangerous. You must be careful." Thurn nodded rapidly. "I will. But be warned. Varans do not forgive easily." Later that night, Rylan returned to Lady Marin's quarters. She looked up from her desk as he entered. "Did you find anything?" "Yes," Rylan said, placing the datapad on the table. "The maintenance records were changed. A Varan technician adjusted the podium hours before your speech. And a witness saw it." Marin's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then it was deliberate?" "Most likely," Rylan agreed. "They wanted you to collapse to make humanity look weak. The timing was perfect right before your key argument. It wasn't an attack meant to harm physically. It was designed to damage our reputation. She leaned back in her chair, thoughtful. This means the Council's decision could already be influenced. If we accuse them without evidence the Council accepts, it will look like desperation. Then we'll get proof, Rylan said firmly. We always do. Lady Marin smiled faintly. You sound confident. Humans survive because we adapt, Rylan said simply. They underestimate that. As the lights dimmed, Rylan spent the rest of the night analyzing the data. He examined the energy pattern again and again, comparing it with known weapon and sensor signatures. Nothing matched exactly. The pulse had an unusual rhythm, almost like a biological signal rather than a mechanical one. He leaned forward deep in thought. What if the device wasn't purely technological? Some species used living components in their machinery, biomechanical systems that reacted to thought or energy. If that was the case, the Varans had used something much more advanced than expected. He ran a deeper scan. The readings showed traces of organic material, something faintly crystalline and alive. That explained why traditional detectors hadn't noticed it. Rylan exhaled slowly. This was no simple sabotage. It was a calculated experiment. Someone had tested this device on Lady Marin deliberately, knowing humans would react differently than most species. The realization chilled him. Whoever was behind this wasn't just trying to discredit humanity. They were studying it. He looked out at the endless night sky beyond the window. Humanity's place in the galaxy had always been uncertain. They were surrounded by civilizations far older, stronger, and richer in knowledge. Yet again and again, humans had surprised them, with their will, their creativity, and their courage. Rylan knew that whoever set this trap had made one big mistake. They had given a human a mystery to solve. And humans, once they decided to uncover something, never stopped until they found the truth. The next day's hearing would begin soon. Rylan was ready. He now had clues, a witness, and growing determination. The shadows around the council were thick, but he would cut through them, not with strength, but with the human power of observation and persistence. Because that was what humans did best. They noticed what others ignored. And soon, everyone in the Interstellar Council would learn that truth. The next morning, the Interstellar Council's chambers buzzed with quiet tension. News of the human diplomat's sudden collapse had spread across the galaxy. Every delegate now looked at the humans with a strange mix of curiosity and suspicion. Some believed it was a simple illness. Others whispered that it had been staged to gain sympathy. Captain Rylan stood near the edge of the crowd, scanning every face. His sharp eyes missed nothing. He noticed how some delegates avoided looking at Lady Marin, while others studied her carefully as if measuring her strength. Humans were new in this vast council, and every mistake, real or imagined, could be used against them. Lady Marin entered gracefully, her posture steady, her expression calm. The faint color had returned to her face, but Rylan knew she was still recovering. Her courage impressed him. Many would have asked for time to rest, but not her. She understood that hesitation could be seen as weakness in this hall of power. The session began with formal greetings. The Varan representative, Lord Cyrix, stood proudly at the front. His silver skin reflected the light, and his voice flowed like music. "We welcome the return of the human diplomat," he said politely, his words smooth. "We are relieved to hear her recovery was swift. Perhaps her kind will soon adapt to the pressures of interstellar diplomacy." It was a compliment, but it carried hidden insult. Rylan could feel the sarcasm beneath the elegant tone. Lady Marin only smiled faintly and replied, "Humans learn quickly, Lord Cyrix, sometimes faster than others expect." Her calm response made several delegates murmur in surprise. Rylan noticed how the Varan's eyes flickered slightly, showing irritation. The human diplomat's strength had not been broken after all. As the discussions resumed, Rylan stood quietly near the back wall, pretending to be another silent guard. But his mind was busy. The night before, he had studied the energy traces and realized that the device used against Lady Marin had living elements. That discovery meant the attack was not only planned, it was advanced. He needed proof, and soon, he decided to act. During a short recess, Rylan left the chamber and made his way to the lower levels of the council building. These levels were restricted, filled with technical equipment and maintenance drones. Few delegates ever came here. The dim corridors glowed faintly with blue light, and the air was cooler. He followed the data trail he had discovered earlier, the one leading to the Varen technician who had adjusted the podium. The name in the records was Terran Vey, a low-ranking engineer. But something about the name bothered Rylan. When he cross-checked the technician's ID, he found inconsistencies in the registration code. It was fake. That meant the person behind the name wasn't an ordinary worker. Rylan moved silently, his hand resting near his sidearm but not drawing it. He reached a maintenance door labeled Authorized Personnel Only. He used a small tool to override the lock. Humans were not the most advanced species in technology, but they were resourceful. He had learned to improvise in the field, adapting human tools to alien systems. Within seconds, the door slid open. Inside, faint lights revealed a workshop filled with strange equipment. Crystal panels glowed faintly, connected by wires that pulsed like veins. On one table, Rylan saw small fragments that matched the device he had found under Lady Marin's podium. His heart beat faster, so it was true. This was the origin of the sabotage. He stepped closer, studying the fragments. They looked alive. Tiny movements shimmered along their surfaces like breathing crystals. He activated his wrist scanner again. The readings were almost identical to the ones he'd recorded yesterday. But this time he detected something new. Faint traces of neural energy, almost like thought patterns. Organic intelligence, he whispered. It's not just technology. Before he could analyze further, the sound of footsteps echoed behind him. He turned sharply, hiding behind a console. A tall figure entered the workshop, silver skin glinting under the lights. It was a Veyran. Rylan recognized him from the courtroom, the same assistant who had stood near Lord Syrinx during the first session. The alien moved with calm confidence, checking the devices one by one. Then he spoke softly into a communicator. The human survived the test. The effect was less than expected. Adjust phase frequency for next trial. Rylan's heart pounded. They were planning another attack. He needed to record this. Quietly, he activated the recorder on his wristband. The Veyran continued speaking. Our observers say the human's resilience is unusual. Her body resisted the pulse faster than predicted. It seems humans adapt to bioenergy interference better than most species. That caught Rylan's attention immediately. They were studying humans, not just sabotaging them. They were experimenting to learn how human biology responded to alien energy. Rylan stepped backward silently, careful not to make noise. But his boot brushed a small metal piece on the floor. The faint clink echoed through the room. The Veyran's head turned instantly. His sharp eyes scanned the shadows. "Who's there?" he demanded. Rylan didn't answer. He slipped behind the door, then darted into the corridor. Alarms began to flash red as the Veyran activated a security alert. Rylan sprinted down the hall, turning corners quickly, his human instincts guiding him. He reached a maintenance tunnel and dove inside, rolling to safety as mechanical drones rushed past. Breathing heavily, he checked the recording. It was intact. He had evidence now, a voice confirming the sabotage and the purpose behind it. But he knew that if the Veyrans discovered the theft, they would do everything to discredit or silence him. Later that evening, Rylan met Lady Marin in a secured room within the human embassy. She looked up anxiously as he entered. "You look like you've been running for hours," she said. "I have," Rylan replied, handing her the data pad. "This is what they're doing. The Veyrans weren't just attacking you. They were testing how human biology reacts to their energy weapons." Lady Marin's eyes widened. "Weapons?" "Yes, bioenergy disruptors. They're pretending it's diplomacy, but they're preparing for control. If they understand how to weaken humans, they can stop us from expanding further into the galaxy." She played the recording, listening to the Veyran voice. Her expression hardened. This changes everything. If we show this to the Council, the Veyrans will deny it. We need more than words. We need undeniable proof." Rylan nodded. "I know. The workshop I found still has their devices. But I couldn't take them. I was seen. We'll have to go back quietly." Lady Marin thought for a moment. "We can't risk being caught inside the Council again. But perhaps..." Her eyes lit up with an idea. "Perhaps we can make them reveal themselves." "How?" "By using human unpredictability," she said. "Every alien species here follows rules and logic. They expect order. But humans surprise them. If we act in a way they don't anticipate, they'll expose their fear." Rylan smiled slightly. "I like that." The next day's council meeting began. The tension was thick. Rumors of human weakness had continued to spread. Lady Marin stood confidently at her podium again, as if nothing had happened. This time, Rylan watched not just the room, but the air itself. His sensors picked up faint distortions, small waves of invisible energy pulsing in intervals. The Varans were trying again, hidden behind polite expressions. Lady Marin began to speak. "We humans are often underestimated," she said clearly. "We are called fragile, short-lived, emotional, and yet here we stand, among civilizations millions of years older, still learning, still standing, still unbroken," the delegates murmured. Her words carried power. Then a flicker of light shimmered near her podium, the same kind of pulse that had struck her before. Rylan was ready. He activated his shield emitter instantly, creating a thin, invisible barrier of human tech. The energy pulse hit the shield and bounced harmlessly away, striking a nearby pillar instead. The pillar cracked open, exposing the hidden bio-device inside. Gasps filled the hall. The Varans froze. Rylan stepped forward. "Your test is over," he said firmly. "The Council deserves the truth." Lady Marin turned to the assembly, her voice steady. "Evidence has been found of Varan interference during these sessions. Humans did not come here to be tested. We came to be equal." Silence followed. The elder of the Council rose slowly, its crystalline body glowing. "These are serious accusations. We will examine the proof immediately." The Varan representative tried to protest, but the hidden device spoke louder than words. Rylan stood tall beside Lady Marin, feeling the shift in the room. For the first time, many delegates looked at the humans not with pity, but with respect. They had seen the truth revealed not by advanced scanners or grand speeches, but by simple courage, observation, and timing. Humans had shown something different, an advantage not of strength or power, but of adaptability, instinct, and creativity. The council adjourned with heavy discussion. But Rylan knew this was only the beginning. The mystery was deeper. The Varan's experiment hinted at something larger, a secret project hidden behind political walls, and he was ready to uncover it. The courtroom of the Interstellar Council had never been this silent. The shattered pillar stood as undeniable proof. Hidden inside it was the bio-device that had caused Lady Marin's collapse. Its faint light pulsed weakly like a dying heartbeat. Delegates from dozens of worlds stared at the device with disbelief. Some whispered to their aides. Others looked at the Varan delegation with suspicion. For a moment, no one dared to speak. Then the elder of the council, a tall crystalline being with glowing blue veins, stood from its seat. Its voice echoed through the chamber, calm but heavy. "The council demands an explanation. Who placed this device within the Hall of Judgment?" The Varan representative, Lord Syrinx, rose slowly. His silver skin shimmered under the light, but his expression remained composed. "We deny any involvement," he said smoothly. "This could be human technology designed to frame us. After all, they are new here. They seek attention." Rylan stepped forward before Lady Marin could respond. His voice was calm but firm. "Then explain why your technicians altered the maintenance logs and why your assistant was found near the power systems during the last session." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The council's elder turned its bright gaze toward Syrinx. "Is this true?" Syrinx hesitated for the first time. His usually smooth expression cracked slightly. "Those are false accusations. Humans are clever with their data manipulation." Lady Marin spoke now, her tone steady but sharp. "Captain Rylan has proof," she said. "We recovered recordings from the Varan workshop beneath the council chambers. Your own voice, Lord Syrinx, ordering further tests on human biology." Gasps filled the air. The elder raised a hand and the hall quieted again. "Present the evidence." Rylan held up his datapad. A holographic projection flickered to life, showing the recording he had made in the workshop. The image of the Varan technician appeared, his voice echoing clearly. "The human survived the test. The effect was less than expected. Adjust phase frequency for next trial." As the recording ended, the silence in the room grew even heavier. Lord Syrinx's silver skin dimmed slightly, a sign of deep anger among his kind. "You had no right to invade our facilities," he said sharply. "This evidence is invalid." But the elder raised a glowing hand again. "The council does not ignore what it sees and hears. The evidence stands until proven false." Rylan's eyes moved across the crowd. Many delegates were now staring at the Vayrons with open suspicion, but a few still looked uncertain. He knew this was the critical moment. If they failed to convince everyone, humanity's reputation could still fall apart. Lady Marin understood this too. She stepped closer to the center of the chamber, her voice clear and strong. Humans have been accused of weakness, of fragility. Yet in truth, we survive because we face challenges others avoid. When something threatens us, we don't hide behind excuses. We investigate, we learn, and we adapt. She paused, looking directly at the Veyron delegation. Whoever placed this device thought they could make us fall and call it fate. But we have shown that humans do not break so easily. Applause spread through parts of the hall. The sound was hesitant at first but grew louder. Some species that had previously ignored the humans now nodded with respect. Lord Syrinx looked unsettled. His assistant whispered something in his ear, and for a brief moment Ryland saw fear flash in the Veyron's eyes. That fear confirmed what he already knew. There was more to this than a single device. After the session was paused for investigation, Ryland and Lady Marin were escorted to a private security chamber. The elder of the council joined them, accompanied by a few trusted aides. "Your evidence has shaken the court," the elder said in a calm tone. "But it also raises a greater question. Why would the Vayrons risk such actions? The council forbids any interference in diplomatic proceedings." Ryland took a deep breath. Because they were never testing diplomacy. They were testing humanity. The elder tilted its head slightly, intrigued. "Explain." "The biodevice that attacked Lady Marin wasn't made to harm. It was made to measure," Ryland said. "It scanned her body's reactions to the energy pulse. They wanted to see how humans respond to their technology. It's possible they're developing weapons or mind control systems that can target specific species. We were their test subjects." The elder's glow flickered slightly, a sign of concern. "Such an accusation is grave." "It's also true," Ryland said quietly. "I saw their lab with my own eyes. The recordings, the energy readings, it all matches." Lady Marin added, "They wanted to discredit humans to slow our growth in the council. But I think their real goal is much larger. They're afraid. Humans think differently. We act differently. Our unpredictability makes us dangerous to those who want control." The elder stood silently for a long moment, considering their words. Finally it said, "You have given us reason to look deeper. The council will investigate in full. Until then, the Veyron delegation is under watch." Ryland nodded. "Thank you. That's all we ask, for the truth to come out." That night, the city outside the council dome was glowing with lights. The human quarters were quiet, but Ryland could not rest. He stood on the balcony looking at the stars. Humanity's journey to the stars had been long and filled with challenges. But never before had they faced such a cunning threat. He thought about what Lady Marin had said, that humans were unpredictable. It was true. Every major step forward in history had come from curiosity and courage. No machine could predict how a human would act when pushed to the edge. That was their true advantage. His wrist communicator beeped suddenly. A message appeared. "Ryland, I need you in the council archives, urgent, Marin." Without hesitation, he grabbed his weapon and ran. When he arrived, the massive archive chamber was dimly lit. Lady Marin stood near one of the consoles, her face tense. "Ryland," she said, "the council's system detected a breach. Someone tried to delete the maintenance logs again. They're trying to erase the evidence." Before Ryland could respond, the lights flickered, and 3 Veyron guards appeared at the far end of the room. One of them spoke coldly. "You humans dig too deep. This ends now." Ryland moved in front of Lady Marin, his stance steady. "You've already failed once. Don't make it worse." The guards advanced, their crystalline armor glowing faintly. Ryland's hand hovered near his weapon, but he didn't draw it. Instead, he thought quickly. The archive's defense system could be controlled from the console. He remembered the codes the caretaker had mentioned earlier. As the first Veyron raised his weapon, Ryland pressed a sequence on the console. Energy shields dropped from the ceiling, trapping the guards inside a containment field. The Veyrons fired, but the energy dispersed harmlessly against the walls. Lady Marin exhaled in relief. "You remembered the codes?" Ryland gave a small smile. "Humans remember the important things." Moments later, the council's own guards arrived. The Veyrons were taken into custody. Their attempt to destroy the records stopped. By morning, the entire council was buzzing with the news. The evidence of the Veyron conspiracy was undeniable now. The recordings, the devices, the attempted cover-up, all of it proved their guilt. In the final hearing of the day, the Elder addressed the assembly. The humans have shown courage and intelligence in uncovering a truth that others might have ignored. The Council will not forget this, Lady Marin bowed respectfully. We only did what was right. Lord Cyric stood silent, surrounded by guards. His pride was gone. He knew the truth had been revealed to all. Rylan looked around the vast chamber. For the first time, the humans were not being whispered about as fragile newcomers. They were being watched with respect. When the session ended, Lady Marin turned to Rylan. You did it, she said softly. Rylan shook his head. We did it. Humans don't stop when things look impossible. That's what makes us who we are. They walked out of the chamber together as the sun rose above the planet's horizon, painting the city in golden light. Humanity had not only survived the challenge, they had proven their worth. But deep inside, Rylan knew one thing for sure. If the Veyrons had gone this far to study humans, there were others watching too. Others who would soon realize that the human spirit, unpredictable, stubborn, and endlessly curious, was something no power in the galaxy could control. The morning sun spread soft golden light across the capital city of the Interstellar Council. The tall crystal towers reflected the light, painting the sky in shades of pink and silver. The news of the Veyron plot had already reached every world in the Alliance. For the first time in decades, the humans were not seen as mere observers. They were now the ones who had saved the honor of the Council. Inside the Council dome, Lady Marin and Captain Rylan walked together through the grand corridor. The hall was no longer filled with whispers of doubt. Now delegates nodded respectfully as the humans passed. Even those who had once looked down on humanity seemed to bow their heads slightly. Rylan felt uneasy with the attention. He had never wanted fame. He was a soldier, not a hero. Yet deep inside he knew this moment was important. It wasn't about him. It was about showing that humans, though small in number, had something no machine or alien intelligence could copy. Courage guided by conscience. Lady Marin smiled at him. You look uncomfortable, Captain. I'm just thinking, he replied. Yesterday, most of them didn't even know my name. Now they act like I saved the galaxy. Marin laughed softly. You did something greater. You reminded them what it means to care about truth. They entered the council chamber once more. Today's meeting was not a trial. It was a ceremony. The elder of the council stood at the center, its crystal form glowing brighter than usual. Around it, thousands of delegates sat in their seats, representing hundreds of civilizations. The council gathers, the elder's calm voice echoed, to recognize those who have restored honor to this chamber and proven that justice must never be silent. The hall fell completely quiet. Humanity, the elder continued, came to us as the youngest species among the stars. Yet in their short time here they have shown qualities many of us forgot. Curiosity, courage, and the strength to protect what is right, even when outnumbered. Today we acknowledge these virtues through the actions of Captain Rylan and diplomat Marin. A wave of gentle applause spread through the room. Rylan bowed his head politely, but his mind was still restless. He kept thinking of something he had seen in the Veyron lab before it was sealed. There had been a map, strange coordinates far outside known space. He hadn't told anyone yet. After the ceremony, Lady Marin and Rylan were invited to a private dinner hosted by the elder. The table was long and elegant, filled with light-based food projections that could be eaten by any species. Rylan picked a simple energy cube. It tasted like sweet bread. The elder turned its glowing face toward him. Captain, you seem troubled even in victory. Is there something left unsaid? Rylan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. In the Veyron lab, there was a set of coordinates. They didn't match any system in the Council's maps. I think the device they used on Lady Marin wasn't made here. It came from somewhere else. Lady Marin's expression turned serious. You think there's another group behind them? I can't prove it, Rylan said. But the energy signature didn't match Veyron tech. It was cleaner, almost artificial, like something designed by a machine intelligence. The elder thought quietly for several seconds before replying. Your instincts have served you well before, human. I will have our scientists examine the coordinates. Rylan nodded in thanks, but in his heart, he already knew that something greater was waiting beyond the stars. Later that night, the human quarters were peaceful. The sky outside glowed with distant ships moving between worlds. Lady Marin stood on the balcony, the cool wind brushing her hair. Rylan joined her, holding a small communication disc. "Message from Earth," he said. "They heard about the trial." "They're proud," Marin smiled warmly. "They should be. Humanity needed this. We were seen as weak before, but now the galaxy knows we're not." Rylan looked at the stars. "We've proven ourselves once. But if those coordinates mean what I think they do, we'll have to prove it again soon." She looked at him curiously. "Do you ever rest, Captain?" He smiled faintly. "Not when something feels unfinished." A few days later, the Council's investigation teams confirmed what Rylan suspected. The coordinates pointed to a dead zone beyond the outer rim, a place no ship had entered for centuries. The energy readings there matched the mysterious device used on Lady Marin. When the report reached the Council, the Elder summoned Rylan and Marin once more. "You were right," the Elder said gravely. "The device did not originate from Varen technology. The Varens acquired it from an unknown source located at these coordinates. We have no idea who or what exists there." Rylan's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then that's where we'll find the real reason behind this attack." Lady Marin added, "If we can learn who made this device, we might prevent another crisis." The Elder hesitated. "It is dangerous to send humans there alone. We can assign protection from other species." Rylan shook his head firmly. "With respect, Elder, this began with humans. It should be humans who finish it. We'll take a small team, no offense to anyone, but humans are best at finding answers in places where logic fails." The Elder studied him carefully. "Very well. The Council grants your request." The next morning, the human exploration ship Aurora Dawn prepared for launch. Its sleek frame shimmered under the planet's light. Rylan stood on the bridge wearing his white command uniform. Lady Marin joined him, her eyes full of determination. "Ready?" she asked. "As ready as a human can be," he said with a grin. The ship rose smoothly from the platform, breaking through the atmosphere and into the black sea of stars. The coordinates led them far beyond known systems, past nebulae that glowed like rivers of fire, past silent fields of drifting rock. For days they traveled, guided by faint energy trails. The crew, a small group of humans and allied observers, worked tirelessly. Tension grew as they neared the dead zone. Then one day the sensors detected a faint pulse, the same kind of energy that had once attacked Lady Marin. "Source ahead," the navigator reported. "Distance, 0.3 light-years." "Bring us closer," Rylan ordered. Through the viewport, a strange sight appeared, a massive structure floating in the darkness. It was ancient, silent, and unlike anything seen before. Its surface shimmered like glass, yet patterns of light pulsed beneath it. "It's not natural," Marin whispered. "It looks built." The Aurora Dawn approached carefully. The ship's lights reflected off the surface, revealing symbols that glowed faintly. Rylan felt a chill, not of fear but of awe. They scanned the structure and soon the data appeared. "It's a research station," said the engineer. "But it's not from any known species. Its systems are still partially active. Can we connect?" Rylan asked. "We can try." Moments later, the holographic screen lit up with strange symbols, then slowly rearranged into readable language. A calm synthetic voice echoed through the ship. "Welcome, observers. Experiment cycle 378 incomplete. Awaiting new data." Everyone froze. "Experiment?" Marin repeated softly. Rylan's face hardened. So the Varans weren't the only ones experimenting. Someone built this place long before the Council even existed. The voice continued. "Subject species, human. Observation, rapid cognitive adaptation. Result, unpredictable behavior. Conclusion, further study required." A long silence filled the bridge. The humans exchanged shocked looks. "They were studying us," Rylan said slowly, "long before we even reached the stars." The voice faded away and the station's lights dimmed again. The ancient place fell silent once more. Rylan looked out the window at the endless stars. Whoever they were, they saw something in us that others didn't. Maybe they feared it. Maybe they admired it. Lady Marin placed a hand on his shoulder. "Either way, we know what we are now. We don't need anyone else's approval." He nodded. "No one defines humanity but us." When Aurora Dawn returned to the Council, the discovery shook the galaxy. The Elder called another assembly, declaring the truth publicly. The ancient builders had vanished long ago, but their experiments had left one clear message: humans were different. Not because of strength or technology, but because of their will to survive and learn. Standing once more in the Great Hall, Rylan looked around at the countless faces watching. He spoke simply, without pride. "Humans are not perfect," he said. "We make mistakes. We argue, we fall, but every time we fall, we rise again. That's what makes us who we are. That's what makes us human." The hall was silent for a heartbeat, then applause erupted, echoing like thunder. Even the elder's crystalline body glowed brighter in approval. Lady Marin smiled proudly. "You've given the galaxy something it needed, Rylan. Hope." Rylan looked at her and then at the stars beyond the tall glass windows. "And as long as humans keep exploring, that hope will never die." The stars shimmered like a million tiny lights, waiting for the next human story to begin.